Hello and welcome to today's webinar, What's New and Innovative with HPE Vertica. Next slide, please. Today's webinar is brought to you by our new Vivid Vertica Special Interest Group. The two leaders for this new SIG are Akshar Dave and myself, Dina Love. Akshar has worked for over 3 years for SoftNet Solutions in Sunnyvale, California. He has more than 15 years of data analytics and data science experience and a track record of delivering innovation and a strong customer focus. He leads SoftNet Solutions' Vertica practice and is known for his ability to lead creative analytic solutions that bridge business and development teams. Next slide, please. As the other leader of the Vertica SIG, I am hosting this webinar. Again, my name is Dina Love. I've worked for over 15 years in Silicon Valley companies in various IT positions, as well as technical training and instructional design. I work for HPE in software education, and I've been working since May of 2013 as a senior technical instructor, and I teach all the Vertica product courses to our customers, partners, and my fellow HPE employees. Next slide, please. We're excited to kick off our new SIG with this webinar. Our SIG's future plans are to bring you a minimum of 2 webinars per year. Our webinars will focus on topics of interest in HPE Vertica, the industry's leading analytics platform, purpose-built to manage massive volumes of big data at extreme scale with high performance. We do welcome all our members' suggestions for any topics or even customer implementations that you'd like us to cover in the future. So if you do have suggestions, or if you'd like to collaborate or even be a guest speaker on any future webinars, please feel free to contact me directly. We also hope to have our SIG members participate in possible meetups around future conferences, so that way we could meet face-to-face. Next slide, please. So today's speakers are Jeff Healy and Steve Sarsfield from HPE Vertica, located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Jeff is Director of Product Marketing and leads the product marketing effort for the HPE Vertica Analytics platform. Jeff has more than 15 years of high-tech marketing experience and deep knowledge in messaging, positioning, and content development. He previously led product marketing initiatives for Exeda Corporation, now PTC, the leading IoT platform for sensor data and the Internet of Things. Jeff has also held product marketing, customer success, and lead editorial roles at MathWorks, Macromedia, which is now Adobe, Sybase, now SAP, and the Boston Globe. Steve is Product Marketing Director of HPE Vertica. He's a product evangelist and spokesperson in HPE's Big Data Software Business Unit. He has over 20 years of experience in big analytics, information quality, big data, and data governance. He's also a big data enthusiast and author of the book, The Data Governance Imperative. Next slide, please. We do have some housekeeping items. So today's live session is intended for all Vivid members and specifically to welcome the members of our new Vertica SIG. Today's slide deck and our webinar recording will be made available to you. They will be posted in the webinar section on the Vivid website, which is visible for all members. We will send you the link via email once they're posted to the Vivid website. If you do have any questions as we go along, please type them and send them using the questions pane in the webinar control panel. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the GoToWebinar control panel, and it usually appears in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. To submit a question, please make sure that the questions pane is expanded, and then type in your question and click the send button. We will answer your questions in the Q&A section at the end of the webinar. So let's get started. I will pass it over to Jeff Healy and Steve Sarsfield. Gentlemen.
Thanks, Dina. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. Steve and I are really excited to cover some of the features and benefits of our latest release, which is FrontLoader Vertica 8. So we're going to cover some of the top top features, Steve is going to go into some of our latest developments around SQL on Hadoop, and hopefully we'll get to some really interesting questions. So as we always do with every presentation, we have to include the caveats around forward-looking statements. So rolling up to a 3-year roadmap, and some of the features are subject to change without notice. And also our confidential information slide. Okay, so Dina, thanks for the introduction. I'm Jeff Healy, joined with Steve Sarsfield. Have our email addresses here. We'd love to hear from customers. We'd love to hear from prospects that are interested in embarking on their big data analytics initiatives. We're out on the road a lot at trade shows, and I know we have HPE Discover coming up in London. Steve and I will both be there. We'd love to meet with you, so please reach out to us. Now I want to provide an overview. I see that we have a lot of customers on the line as well, so this will be a little bit of debrief for others that joined that may be new to Vertica. So HPE Vertica Analytics Platform, it's a SQL Analytics database used by thousands of organizations, some that are looking to modernize their enterprise data warehouse in more traditional industries, like telecommunications and retail, for example, where they're really trying to get a lower total cost of ownership. They're tired of paying really millions of dollars to their enterprise data warehouse provider, and meanwhile, some of the key constituents from different parts of the organization aren't really getting any analytical insight. So they're looking at modernizing their enterprise data warehouse. And then there are the upstarts, we call them more new economy companies, organizations really data-driven. It's in their lifeblood. Analytics is imperative to them. Think of the Facebooks and the Ubers of the world, the disruptors. They take more of a greenfield approach, and it's the best tool for the job. And Vertica plays really well there as well. So these are the 4 key tenets of Vertica. If you were to say why, all the case studies on your site, why do organizations choose Vertica? One, it's fast, right? That's kind of the signature performance features that our crack engineering team is always working on. It's like a race car engine. They're always tuning it and adding more capability so that it can go really, really fast. So you'll find often that boosts performance by 500% or more. So an incumbent data warehouse, incumbent database, you hit a wall around speed, Vertica comes in and can really run those queries very quickly. It's incredibly scalable, so it handles huge workloads at high speeds. We're talking petabyte range, and you'll see as we explain front loader going into the exabyte range. It's standard. It's all SQL's based. Right? So if you're a DBA or data architect, the transition from an Oracle or another data warehouse, it's not a huge learning curve. I mean, there's differences in some of the features and functionality, of course, but it's all based on SQL. So you don't need to learn any new languages that would add to the complexity. And then costs, a lower total cost of ownership with Vertica because it's optimized for x86 hardware. Naturally recommended some of the best hardware in the world and servers, and that's from HPE, DL380s and the like. But you can run on x86 hardware, actually commodity hardware, and we run on Linux. So we've seen examples, particularly with one telecommunications organization, where they took a petabyte of data from a data warehouse, they brought in a Vertica, shrunk it down to 500 terabytes based on a lot of different reasons, but compression and the way that we store data. When you know it, that attributes to a lower total cost of ownership. You don't need to add legions of data architects and DBAs, again, because it's all based on standards. Now, the key point I want to make here around Vertica, now that we have kind of a grounding here, is that it comes in a lot of different flavors, a lot of deployment and consumption models, and our customers appreciate that. But it's all based on that core Vertica SQL engine, right? We have built-in advanced analytics at the core. Think time series, pattern matching, linear regression. We add more and more with every release. It's open ANSI SQL standards, and it's also very extensible. So we understand data scientists like to use their language of choice. That's R, Python, or Java, Spark, Scala for developers and what have you, and we embrace that. But we take a different approach in that you can often run those models that you built in the database, so you get much better performance. Now, the 3 different ways to consume Vertica is HPE Vertica in the clouds, right? So get up and run it quickly in the cloud. A lot of our customers started on-premise, and now, for different reasons, maybe it's a business continuity use case where they want to run, kind of backup with Amazon. They can do that, and we do it in a way kind of a BYOL, or bring your own license model, available now on AWS and now also Microsoft Azure. That was one of the announcements that we made at the Big Data Conference around our latest release. It's all based on, again, that core engine, so the Vertica Enterprise that's constantly being revved around columnar storage, advanced compression, maximum performance, and scalability. So regardless of what your deployment and consumption model, it's all based on that same core. Steven's going to go into HPE Vertica for SQL on Apache Hadoop. Made some really great strides there in the latest release, particularly around our readers, support for any industry-leading distribution, and got great performance and scalability and reliability, because as with Vertica's architecture, there's no helper node or single point of failure. Here's a slide here that we just developed recently to show how the importance of the partner ecosystem. So again, a lot of organizations really choose Vertica because we're not trying to provide just one stack that says you have to buy everything from our company, right? And naturally, we'd love you to buy HPE hardware, services, and the like. But Vertica is a very important tool in the toolbox, but we understand there's a lot of other tools there, and we natively integrate with them. Whether that's data transformation, where Spark is really taking off for ETL, messaging, we've seen Kafka as really a boon to our customers, particularly to be able to accomplish more real-time loading, micro-batch loading, the ETL vendors, Attunity, and the like. And then what you'll see here is the core of Vertica. If you were just to be able to rip the top off the database and look into what are the core technology areas: extensibility with user-defined functions, core built-in analytical functions, security, ability to analyze data in place. So one thing we heard loud and clear from the industry is that in many organizations that are, say, starting with Hadoop and storing petabytes of data there, and making that kind of the core component of their architecture, not wanting to move that data, well, you don't have to. You can get Vertica's signature performance and analyze that data in place. We see that as a real key differentiator for us. And you'll see some of the other vendors as well. We don't have you choose a data visualization tool because we don't offer one as an organization. So we have an entire partner engineering team that works on every single release of a Looker, a Click, a Tableau to make sure you get the best performance and the best combination of the technologies. I'll talk a little bit about it makes our job a lot easier when the customers are successful. They're banging down our doors to present on our behalf. So we just get out of their way. We let them speak. And what I've been seeing is a lot of analytical use cases have been emerging, particularly around Internet of Things, which Vertica is really kind of purpose-built for. And that could be something like predictive maintenance. Very strong within, again, those new economy companies, ad tech technology companies, social media companies like Facebook, Supercell behind Clash of Clans to do kind of in-gaming ad promotions, kind of real-time A/B testing, promotional testing. The list abounds, but we have just an incredible amount of customers that we're really proud of that are data-driven organizations that rely on Vertica. Now, before I dive into FrontLoader, which is the topic for the webcast, I want to just do a recap of some of these interesting names. The engineering team has named all the releases, the code names after heavy equipment. So A was auger, B was bulldozer, and it goes on. It's funny, we've got a lot of interest from our customers and wanting T-shirts and things like that with the heavy equipment on there. But excavator we launched last year, and again, that was around extensibility. So we offered a fast ORC reader. Was the first thing that we had done, and working very closely with Hortonworks so that you could, again, explore that data in place on a Hadoop distribution, and this one was kind of pure Apache Hadoop. Kafka support, as I mentioned, we came up with a Kafka connector. We thought it was going to be more around data streaming, which there are some use cases for that, particularly with IoT, but it was really a great way for us to increase the speed by which you can load data into Vertica, so doing kind of a micro-batch loading use case. And now with FrontLoader, you'll see our messaging around deploy and analyze anywhere in unified architecture, in database analytics, Spark, and more. And I want to dive into some of those features. So Vertica 8, again, we announced it at the Big Data Conference, and the overall tagline is deploy and analyze anywhere, right? So we hear all the time from organizations that they're frustrated. They're frustrated that their vendor that they're working with is kind of painting them in a corner, whether that's from a licensing perspective and having them charge for deployment sandboxes and development licenses and things like that. We don't do that. It's all one very simplified pricing model. Deployment, we see a lot of organizations out there that say, well, I don't know if I'm going to go to AWS. I may go to Azure. I want to keep my options open. I want to see where the prices are going to go. I don't want to put all my data on one cloud, and then when you know it, then they jack the prices up on us and again, kind of painting you in a corner. And 2 or 3, I don't want to move my data, right? I want the data put it in place. We understand Vertica has the fastest signature performance, particularly with the ROS format. A lot of organizations do that. But they may not have SLAs. They may be doing more data exploration. They want the Vertica robust query engine to apply that to a data lake. So we've done that. It's exactly what we've done with Vertica 8. 1 is around performance at exabyte scale. And this is for not just, okay, we're making Vertica faster, but what we're seeing is the pioneers within our space, the Ubers of the world and the Facebooks of the world, that really need that performance. Not just performance as far as the queries will go faster, but being able to handle thousands of concurrent users. That's what we're focusing on, because a lot of these organizations, and I can see it happening in every company, there's going to be more demand, right? They want to understand whether you're in marketing, you're in sales, operations, support. They need that analytical insight. So you better be able to handle concurrency and performance, because once they get frustrated, they're going to look elsewhere, and that's where shadow IT happens. Advanced in database analytics, we have something that we call applied machine learning, and I'll go into that in just a little bit. But it's the ability to run analytics at scale within database, and again, adding a lot of those newer built-in analytical functions around geospatial and the like. Any cloud design and open source innovation. So we added Microsoft Azure cloud support, working very closely with the Microsoft team. Native Hadoop Orc and Parquet readers, again, for data analysis in place. We also came up with a Spark connector in addition to our Cockpit connector that came out with the year before, and we've gone further with integration. So don't compromise big data analytics. We hear it all the time with organizations that you feel like they have to make compromises. You don't have to with Vertica. You don't have to with Vertica. Now I'm going to dive into a few of the features, and we have more information that we can share. I think the best thing to do would be to share links from our Big Data Conference, because our engineers who built the product went in the deepest dive sessions possible. We always get very high ratings in that way. There's no marketing fluff at all in there. But I wanted to show one graph here, and this is around boosting core analytical performance. So this our engineering team was showing, again, based on some of our customers that need hundreds of concurrent sessions or thousands of concurrent sessions. Just look at the performance gains from version 7.2.3 to version 8. And I think that speaks for itself. So being able to handle concurrent queries and really kind of focusing on and architecting that core. Now, 2 key features within, along the same vein, is two latest innovations. One is something that we're calling directed queries. So what we're doing is we're providing more intelligence in the system. Right? So users can specify with greater precision how the query should run and which projection should be used. So almost offering up almost some best practices on how they can do that. Now the users can disagree with the automatic query plane and use their own. But again, just trying to provide some guidance. I know Dina sees it a lot, and as well as the entire professional services organization. Look for some of those best practices, right? Because it's a very, very powerful analytical database, and there's a lot of knobs and dials there. So a little bit of guidance can go a long way. And then also with resilient queries, this is around when you have a system under duress, right? And a node fails, and what happens to the impaired environment? Well, the queries remain resilient, right? They remain running. You don't have to go and completely re-architect your system. And they ensure that they run fast no matter what challenges can occur. Now, around boosting loading performance, this is a lot, and I just spotlighted one because it had a really good metric to it. And this is the boosting performance of data loading when the data is wide. So this is many hundreds or thousands of columns, right? That's not unusual with Vertica customers. So they can load the data up to 700% faster by using the cluster more efficiently. Again, just around query performance, and then also around loading, portion loading. I'll dive a little bit more into, we made a lot of advances with our management console. So for any of the users out there, I would say, looking at the management console with the latest release, we've got a really strong engineering team that's put a lot of effort into that. And making Vertica more visual. So one is around advanced system monitoring. I call this Vertica for Vertica, right? It enables organizations to set up a standalone monitoring system that does not rely on the production cluster, so that you can put a standalone Vertica cluster on its own, use Vertica to also monitor how the actual production Vertica cluster is running. There's a lot of tools out there. We put one in there for ourselves for you to be able to use right out of the box. Also, Kafka monitoring. So I mentioned we came up with a Kafka connector within the Vertica 7.2 excavator release. But now what you can do is you can monitor Kafka streams within the console. This is a really highly demanded feature request from our customer base. And then around cloud monitoring, you'll see more tighter integration with the AWS. This is the Vertica Management Console is now part of the AMI. So that, again, you have the Vertica core, deployment and consumption models. Doesn't matter, you get the same experience, and it's just an optimal experience. Around built-in analytical functions. So this is building machine learning into the core of Vertica. So many of you out there may remember distributed R, right? So the ability to run R in a parallelized fashion, right? No downsampling, get a full corpus of the data on which you can build your models, a lot of these data scientists. Well, we took a lot of feedback from, and we had probably over 1,000 downloads, and said, love the concept. I don't want to maintain a separate cluster. I want to take that core IP, and could you run it right within Vertica? And that's exactly what we did. So our analytics team took what was great about that technology, and now we're building it in the core as one core product, not a separate product. The machine learning algorithms that have come out of the box, k-means and regression, linear regression, are now core part of the standard product. We also have a lot of advanced predictive modeling capabilities around eliminating data duplication, typically required of alternative vendor offerings. So this is a matter of you have to do any cleanup around your data. Vertica has a lot of features in there. One that's really important, particularly around the Internet of Things, is around gap filling and interpolation. Right? If you've got like meters that are sending data in, let's just say, not at normal intervals, irregular intervals. And as I touched on, traditional approaches can't handle many data points, forcing data science to downsample. And if you speak to a data scientist, they don't want to, but R kind of forces you to do that on its own, being kind of a single-threaded architecture, and that leads to less accurate predictions. Another new feature high in demand was the Apache Spark connector. We actually had a beta version of this, and we were getting a request, it seemed, every day, at least one or two people. A lot of noise around Spark right now. Again, this is another technology out of the Hadoop ecosystem that has great promise, particularly around ETL, and that's actually where we see the most common use case, right? But the idea here is that it's bidirectional, so that you can either take Spark data, push it into Vertica, or do the opposite, take Vertica and push that into Spark. What we'll see is Spark used for ETL. They will run queries right within Spark on smaller data sets because it is in memory. But Spark doesn't have a data store, so it either works with HDFS or works with emerging analytical databases like ourselves. So we find that we can either feed those data models because Vertica has lots of data, obviously, or what we can do is just use Vertica and a lot of the built-in analytical functions just out of the box on its own. So you can ingest terabytes of Spark and memory data Vertica for batch ETL, or you can ingest Spark streaming data Vertica for low latency interactive SQL analytics. So we're going to improve on this and build out our capabilities working closely with Spark, because whenever there's a new technology that comes out of the Hadoop community, there's always a lot of confusion. Do I use one versus the other? We don't force you to. The idea here is that a lot of our customers have said, hey, I love Spark for an ETL engine. I'd love to use the two of them together. Can you make that happen? We've done that. Last slide before I pass it over to Steve to dive into some of our advancements around SQL on Hadoop is around multi-cloud deployments. So AWS was our primary cloud, and it's still really, really important to us. Majority of our customers run, if they have a cloud environment, AWS with Vertica, so we had tight integration there. Seamless access to S3. We have an S3 loader. More around the management console, as I mentioned, so node health check checks and things like that. You can check the disk usage. There's a configure a load balancer with AWS CloudFormation that can get a cluster up and running very, very quickly. More and more integration with AWS. But we also now run on Microsoft Azure. And we're looking at other clouds as well. That way, organizations, again, okay, you can only use AWS. There isn't an on-premise version. Well, we've got both. We want to try multiple clouds because we're not sure where we're going to bet on which cloud, particularly around pricing, hedging your bets. We've done that as well. So hopefully that comes across as far as for front loader. The key message is be able to analyze data in place. You no longer have to choose. You have multi-cloud deployments. And regardless of the scale and the performance, we've got you covered because that's backed by some of the leading data-driven organizations in the world, and they keep us honest. But now I'm going to pass this off to Steve, and Steve is going to cover some of the latest advancements around SQL on Hadoop. Steve, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. We have done a lot of work around integrating our software with HPE Vertica for SQL on Hadoop. So, you know, it's interesting. What a lot of folks want to do is actually use our robust, our mature engine and install that engine in their SQL cluster and start to explore data in HDFS. So, you know, we have some real things, real good capabilities around exploring data in place in HDFS. We have integrated with HCatalog in previous releases. But now some of the new capabilities that we have is the ability to query data in native compressed columnar formats that exist within Apache Hadoop. So those are specifically ORC files, and now with the front loader release, we can now query Parquet files. So think about that. If you want to access data, you want to query data with all of the mature engine that we have, you know, that you can use our analytical functions to access ORC files and Parquet files. You can even do things like joins between Vertica ROS files, which is our native format, and data that is in an ORC format. So if you have a lot of customer data, for example, that's sitting in a ROS file, and then some customer log data that's sitting in an ORC file, you can do joins across those two file formats and provide analytics around that. So really good stuff. You know, what we found is that when we run our HPE Vertica for SQL on Hadoop, it is fast, a lot faster than solutions that are on the marketplace today, and a lot faster than you know, your typical benchmarks. We use the TPC-DS benchmarks, which are the standard, industry standard benchmarks that are out there that allow us to take a look and kind of see how we're doing up against other solutions that are on the marketplace. And I think there is some stuff on the next slide on that, if I'm not mistaken. Before I get to that, yeah, so we have you know, this new ORC reader that's available, and that was part of a release that we had previously in version 7.2.x. With this new release of front loader, we actually have a new Parquet reader. So just the ability to read Parquet files very quickly. In previous versions, we could read Parquet files very quickly, but we've created an optimized reader. The reader is developed in C++, and so it's fast throughout. So Vertica is very fast, the reader is very fast, and we can access those ORC files or Parquet files very quickly on your HDFS server. Next. Yeah, so this is the benchmarks we took. So what we did is within our QA department, we actually took a look at some of the other solutions that were on the market. We said, okay, well, how do we compare against other solutions that are out there that do SQL queries on top of Hadoop? And the way we did that is we actually took this benchmark, the TPC-DS queries. It's a set of 99 queries that you know, have short-running queries, medium-running queries, and long-running queries. And we took a look at them and said, okay, you know, how do we compare to other solutions on the marketplace? First, we looked at, well, first of all, you know, will all the queries that are part of this benchmark run on all of the solutions? And of course, all the benchmark queries do run on Vertica and Vertica for SQL on Hadoop. Vertica Enterprise is the one that you sort of install itself on a Vertica cluster and access data that's sitting in Hadoop. Vertica SQL in Hadoop is the version of the product that you actually would install in the Hadoop cluster and access data that's sitting in Hadoop. So in both cases, since they're the same engine, they perform and analyze all 99 queries. In the case of Impala, it couldn't do 19 of those queries. In the case of TES, you could not complete 40 of the queries according to our benchmark, and according to Spark, which is sort of the new innovative query engine, we couldn't complete 70 of the 99 queries. So you can see that our analytical engine is really complete in terms of being able to complete all of the TPC DS benchmarks, and I think that has an impact on sort of the amount of analysis that you can do in real life when you get and you start doing queries on top of Hadoop data. Next. Now the other thing that we looked at is, okay, now we know that Impala can only do 80 of the 99 queries. Let's take a look and see how much faster we are than Impala versus the solutions that we have. So you can see here Impala took about it's 40,000 seconds, so several hours to run. HPE Vertica for SQL and Hadoop on the Parquet file. So we installed our Vertica engine on top of that. That took about half the time, and HPE Vertica Enterprise took about a third of the time. So if you think about that, if you run queries, you could run queries 3 times over in HPE Vertica Enterprise as compared to HPE Vertica or according to the queries running on Impala. So we really do have a boost of performance over Impala. And if you go to the next, we took a look at TES, Hive on TES, and you can see here the difference in performance. So I think HPE Vertica SQL and Hadoop using ORC files completed the queries in 12% of the time as compared to TES. And then Vertica Enterprise, which is using our own proprietary file formats, completed the queries in 7% of the time. So it's a really big difference in the queries that could run on TES compared to running those same queries on HPE Vertica for SQL and Hadoop. And then finally, we looked at Spark as well. So those 29 queries that could run on Spark as part of the benchmark, we completed them in about 4% of the time as compared to Spark. That was sort of a surprise to us as well. I know Spark has all these optimizations around running in memory and things like that, but even of those queries that could run, even the fact that Spark runs in memory, we had our optimizations outperformed what Spark could do on those remaining 29 queries that could run as part of the benchmark. It's really fascinating, really great. Next. So, one of the nice things I get to do is I get to get out in the field and talk to analysts and data scientists about sort of the systems that they're building around Vertica and around their big data architecture. And what I see is sort of a really kind of common system that is being built out there. Folks are looking to save money in capturing the data and storing the data. I know that IT budgets are only going up by about 4% year over year, while the amount of data is growing 40, 50% or more year over year. So they're looking for ways to try to solve this problem. And what we're seeing as an emerging architecture is a system where data is captured. It's stored in Hadoop Data Lake. The Hadoop Data Lake is very cost effective. It's great for ETL. Some of the data that you may capture and store there may have unknown value, but that's okay. It may not be valuable to the organization, but that's okay. And then some of that data, through an ETL process that's made available through Hadoop, can be loaded into the legacy data warehouse. it's great to sort of use what you have in place. If people do run into challenges where they can't do enough analytics on the legacy data warehouse, then that data tends to be loaded into the Vertica data warehouse. And in fact, very often the legacy data warehouse goes away, and there's just the combination of the Hadoop data lake and the big data warehouse. So, this is a nice economic system that allows people to kind of capture, store, perform ETL, perform analytics on all of the systems that they need to perform analytics on. And if you build that slide out, the great thing that we have as part of the HPE ecosystem is that we have Vertica SQL on Hadoop, which will allow you to do access and perform analytics on the Vertica data lake. And then we have Vertica itself, the Vertica Enterprise Edition, that will help you do analytics on that Vertica big data warehouse. So you can really accomplish great things. You can use the same analytical query engine and have kind of consistent analysis across the Hadoop data lake and the big data warehouse. So let's go on. Yep, I covered that. The other thing we're seeing is that's common in the architecture out there is that folks want to use a bunch of different solutions together. And Jeff mentioned this earlier, right? So let's say, for example, you have a security analytics application. The two things that you want to do, well, you want to do a couple of different things. First of all, you want to take a look at the data as it's coming in and making sure that there are no security problems that are arising right away. So Spark is really a great use case for that, right? You can run a lot of fast-running queries. You can do some pre-processing and ETL with that. You can do sort of operational analytics using the Spark engine. That data can also be stored in Hadoop, which is a really good place to store data for low cost. It's a great data lake. It's a great place to store sort of warm and cold data. It also has some ETL functionality as well. And then if you want to do deep analysis of that data, so let's say, for example, we see a threat that's coming in our security analytics application, and we want to do some deep analysis looking at 3 years worth of data, Vertica is a really great place for that. And if you want to do really complicated analysis as well, Vertica is a great place for that. So people might want to use all of those technologies together, and the thing that we think that ties them together is this Kafka interface. So Kafka is a publish and subscribe mechanism that allows you to share data between all of these applications. So these are the types of systems that we're building out to sort of embrace an open source architecture. We're building out Spark connectors where you can share models between Vertica and Spark. We're building connectors that allow you to connect into Hadoop and access the data that's in Hadoop. And we're building Kafka connectors that will allow you to publish and subscribe to these applications and other applications. So really that's what we're trying to do with the latest versions of these products. Next. So just to sum up, I think if you take a look at what is new in Vertica 8 and the top technology enhancements, we have developed a Spark integration with Vertica. So not only can you connect into Spark, but you can also share machine learning models between the two applications. We are now tightly integrated with Hadoop, so we provide a fast Parquet reader, which also adds to our ORC reader. We provide security around that and a really fast way to read data from Hadoop into Vertica. We have, as Jeff mentioned, the machine learning modules that are now built into the database. So we can use the power of the cluster to do things like k-means, like logistic regression, like linear regression. And we plan to develop more of those as time goes on. And then finally, the Kafka enhancements, right? The ability to use this publish and subscribe mechanism and allow you to use other analytical applications on the data in addition to Vertica and share the data between Spark, Hadoop, and other applications that support it. I think we're always looking to improve our performance, reduce the footprint on disk, have higher throughput and concurrency, use efficient memory more efficiently, all of those things to help boost the performance of the product. And by doing all these things, we really have the benefits that you can see there at the bottom. So I think we're making some great strides in Vertica 8, and hopefully you agree. If you'd like to try Vertica, I would highly encourage you to do it. So we do have HPE Vertica Community Edition that you can download and install, and you can use Community Edition for up to 1 terabyte, up to 3 nodes, for as long as you want. So if you have an analytical workload that you want to try, install Vertica on those 3 nodes and use it. And you can see the URL for that there. It's my.vertica.com/community. We also have AMIs available. We also have the ability to kind of spin up a trial for HP Vertica for SQL and Hadoop, and also early adopter programs for that. So if you really want to have access to HP Vertica for SQL and Hadoop, we can tie you into our product management team and our R&D team directly. So we really would encourage you to do that. And then finally, up in the upper left-hand corner, we do have our HPE Startup Essentials program that will allow you to sort of build your business around HP Vertica. So this is a great way if you're starting up with your own company, business built around big data. You can access and use some of the resources that we have to help fire up your business. So that is all I have. I guess we're on to the Q&A with Jeff and Steve.
Yep, that's great, Steve. Thanks. And Dina, do we have any questions that have come in that we're happy to answer?
Okay. Can I only explore Hadoop with the SQL on Hadoop offering?
Steve, you want to take that one since you were covering SQL on Hadoop?
Yeah, sure. So, we have some interesting things around the way SQL on Hadoop works. So one option that you have is you can get our product called HP Vertica for SQL on Hadoop. You can install that on your cluster, and you can use our engine on top of your Hadoop cluster. And that's one way to use it. In that scenario, we'll charge you per node, and it's a very simple pricing model. With HP Vertica for our Enterprise Edition, actually we allow you to set up a HP Vertica cluster. And in that case, we charge per terabyte. It's very interesting, sort of the data is very much fungible, very much mutually shareable between your Hadoop cluster and the data that's in your Vertica cluster. So if you want to analyze data that's sitting in your Hadoop cluster and do a join with data that's sitting in your Vertica cluster, we can do that very easily. That's all part of the enterprise license. And again, the license is fungible between those two environments.
Great, thanks, Steve. Dina, any other questions?
This is a quiet group. We don't have a lot of questions. You guys covered everything perfectly. I do have one more. I missed the big data conference. Where can I get access to the recordings and presentations?
Oh, that's an easy one. Okay, good. So I'm sorry we were presented that they weren't able to join the conference, but we record all of the main stage sessions. We take all the presentations from our engineers, PDF them, put them up on the site, and then any customers that have given us permission, we put them up there as well. So the key URL that you should know is www.hpe.com/events/BDC. So everything is up there in a nice, easy to consume catalog.
Any other questions? You do need to put those into the question pane and click the send button, but that's all we have that so far have been asked. Nope, don't see anything else coming in if you want to keep advancing and continue.
All right, yeah, that sounds good. So Well, I'd like to make a shameless plug for Discover 2016 London. Steve and I are going to be there. We were there last year. We've got some great sessions. So I'm giving one based, a Vertica-based session with Anritsu. So whenever we get the chance, we try to co-present with one of our customers. Anritsu is a very successful customer that's taken advantage of our OEM capabilities. That's one thing I probably didn't cover, is that Vertica is very much embeddable. So whether you are an organization that has a product that you sell, a software product, and you want to add analytics to it, you're a product manager and you're trying to make the build versus buy decision, Vertica has a very small footprint and is found in a lot of different solutions out there, whether that's a service or a software product, but it's underneath the hood. In fact, a lot of the HPE software products that you probably use, a lot of people from this Vivid community, Vertica is actually under the covers and you wouldn't even know it. So chances are, if there's analytics with dashboards and you want to do some querying and data exploration, Vertica is under the covers. But that all said, please join us, Discover 2016 London. It was a great event last year. We know it's going to be even better this year, and we'd love to see you there. The way to register now and receive your member discount through Vivid is hpe.com/discover. And here are some top 10 reasons to attend. I won't go into all of them, but I'll tell you that the top reason that we enjoy is being able to meet face-to-face with all of our customers and our prospects. There's a huge exhibit hall. If there's any question you want to be able to get answered, you want to meet with customers, we'll set up meetings with you so you can meet with them. The Vivid team is always there to talk about how you can gain more access and more value out of the community. So really, and London's just a great city to go and visit. So the top 10 reasons are here to attend. I know that we're going to package up this presentation, send it off to PDF, so you'll have all the information there. But just from my perspective, I want to say thank you, and please go to vivid-worldwide.org. Dina is one of the leaders in the Vivid community, and I'm sure that she always makes herself available as well. But just a thank you from me for everyone for joining, and thank you to Vivid and all the presenters as well.
A big thank you to Jeff and Steve for presenting today, and thank you to all who attended today's webinar. If you do end up with questions after the webinar, all of our email addresses have been included in the slides. So just a reminder that the webinar recording and slide deck will be posted to the Vivid website, and in the next few days you will receive an email with those links. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.